Hi, welcome to a new video. In this lecture, we're going to talk about NoSQL, and to be more specific, we're going to discuss documents databases. We'll be using MongoDB or MQL, MongoDB query language, which is the equivalent, as SQL, but this is for NoSQL. Okay, so MongoDB is a document-oriented database where each document is like a JSON file. It looks similar, with the curly brackets. Actually, they're called here BSON, binary JSON, but the structure it's pretty much the same. So this is an example here where you can see the different key value pairs. For example, this is for an apartment. So it shows the name is one of the fields with the values, goes apartment, the ID, of course, that's important in our database, the location, and please notice here that for the location, we have like it's not like a single value. It has like another JSON object, inside that specific key. So that's the flexibility that you can get when you use documents, when we use NoSQL. That's not possible when you're dealing with a table, right? Where there is only a single value per column, per row. Okay, so same thing with amenities. Here you have a list, with different values. That's not possible when using a table. Okay, so one of the properties of these structures, of these databases, is that they are schemaless. So you don't need to create the database explicitly. Even they don't have the same structure. It's possible that one document, has like 5 keys, but there is another one that has 10 keys. So that there is flexibility in the objects that are stored in the database. So this brings some nice things, such as like high scalability. We can replicate when we are spreading this data in different objects in a cluster of computers. Then it's possible to replicate easily compared to more rigid structures. So let's see the hierarchy that typically you will find in MongoDB. So here we have SQL, a relational database management system. So in our previous SQL structure, so we have the database, in some cases the schema, then we have tables, rows, and columns. So here in MongoDB, we have the database, same idea, but now we don't create tables. We'll have collections, that's like the equivalent. And then inside the collection, we will have documents. These are the JSON-like files, objects. So in the documents, they are equivalent to the rows that we have in a table. And instead of columns, we have fields. So that's the hierarchy that we typically, that you will find in a MongoDB database. So again, instead of tables, collections. Instead of rows, documents. So let's get started. Let's create a new database. Let's add some documents. Right? That's the right word in this context. So it's simple. It's just with the command use, and then the name of the database. So if the database exists, so we're going to switch to that database. If it doesn't exist, then it's going to create the database as long as you start adding or inserting new documents to that database. So let's get started. So I'm going to Visual Studio Code. At this point, you should have installed MongoDB, the community server, and also the complement. Here we need the MongoDB for VS Code. You're gonna switch to this one. Mine is already connected to the local host. So please make sure that you follow the steps. And this is very standard, the local host and the port. It's the same, 27017 is the same that you will use unless you have changed it. But typically you will use the same port number. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm in my terminal, I'm going to type Mongosh. That's the shell for Mongo. So if you're getting an error, maybe it's because the Mongosh was not installed with MongoDB Community Server. That's possible, especially for the Windows users. I think for the Mac users, it's going to be installed for sure, but for the Windows users, you need to install also Mongosh. You need to find it, download it, and install it. And also you need to add the path. You know, you need to ensure that in the system environment we have added the path to the variable. So it's really important that you follow those steps, because otherwise you will get an error here, like it won't recognize Mongosh. Okay, so once you're here, I can show you like what are the databases that I have created so far. So I have added some sample databases, but in this case, let's create a new one, which we're going to call SchoolDB. So use, again, you don't have to create. It's just like I'm going to use SchoolDB. So if that database exists, we're going to switch to database. If it doesn't exist, we're going to create a database. So now, please notice that it says switch to the database SchoolDB. And now I can start performing some operations here. So let's get started. Remember, in the database, we can add the equivalent to tables. Here we have collections. So let's create a collection. DB, it's for database. Let's create collection. I'm going to call it students. So here I'm going to add information about the students. Name, age, and the major, something basic. It says okay. We can ask Mongosh to show us the collections in this database. So it will show students, right? You can keep adding more collections if needed. Maybe, I don't know, something about you may add a collection about the programs with information of every program, who are the professors and things like that. Okay, so now I'm gonna start inserting documents into our collection, into our students collection. So I'm gonna insert just one initially. So DB, the name of the collection, students. I'm gonna insert a single observation, insert one. And now I provide the structure is the name of the student. It's called the student Alice. The age, let's say 30. The major, it's mathematics. So this is just some information to populate our database. That's it. So it acknowledged it's true, and it's adding an ID, right? Because I didn't provide an ID, then MongoDB it's adding an ID. So we can visualize what we already have in that collection with DB students. There is the find command that will help to find, and we can add some conditions here to filter our data. But at this point, I'm not going to add conditions. Just show me everything right in that collection. There is a single document right now, which is the information about Alice. So it will give us the ID, the name, the age, and the major. So let's add two more observations. So DB students. So instead of a single insert one, instead of a single observation, let's add multiple observations. That will insert many. This is just to show you how it works. But of course, we can use like another file when we want to insert, like 1,000 observations at the same time. You're not gonna type them. But I'm just showing you the commands. So insert many. So let's add the information of the students. So the first one, I need to provide the name. Let's say the name is Bob. The age. (20). And the major. Let's say physics. Okay, so let's close the information for Bob. And now let's add another student. So the new student will be name. Let's say Carol. Age 22. And the major, let's say history. Okay, so we close the curly bracket here. Then let's close the bracket and the parentheses. So here I'm missing something. It's for the history. I forgot to close my quotation marks. There you go. So now it acknowledged the insertions, and it's inserting two objects, and it provides an ID for both of them. So again, if you want to see, we can use the DB students, fine. And now it shows three documents, right? Our three students, Alice, Bob, and Carol. Okay, so again, you're going to type, every single observation like that. Let's say that we have a file, which I have here. In this folder, I have a JSON line file. So each row here, or each line, to be more specific, is a document with information of a student. So I'm gonna insert that information into our collection, right, in our database. So the name is students 100 JSON-L. All right. So in order to insert that information, I need to, I'm not going to use Mongosh. I'm going to use Mongo import. So where do you get that? If you go to Mongo, these are the commands. Let me show you. You need to the Mongo tools. Let me find it here. Mongo tools. So if we type Mongo DB database tools, here install the MongoDB database tools. That's what I'm getting here. So here you will see first how to install it, right? And also it will give you the information about the tools that you can use. So some of them are very important. For example, Mongo dump is when you want to export a database here, a MongoDB database. Mongo restore, you will use it for the homework because there is a file with multiple databases, so you need to restore them, so you will use the Mongo restore. In this specific case, we're going to use the Mongo import, right? Because we want to bring from a JSON, we want to bring the different documents and insert them into our database. So we're going to use the Mongo import. I already did that. So once you install the tools make sure that you define the path, same thing that you did when you were installing the MongoDB community server. All right. So once you're done with that, you cannot use the Mongo import inside Mongosh. So I need to exit. In my terminal, I just type exit. So now I close Mongosh, and now I'm going to use a line to import the 100 documents into our database. So we have Mongo import, the name of the database, SchoolDB, then the collection, right? Because it's possible that you might have multiple collections. The collection is students. In the file, here we add the name of the file, students 100.jsonl. So once we do that, it will connect to the localhost. It says that 900 documents were imported successfully, right? So they were added into our database. If you want, now we can go back to Mongosh. Let's go to our database, school, DB. You, and here we can see, like in school DB, we can let's visualize some of the observations here. So let's it's not showing. Let's see. Oh, it's empty. So let's check if maybe I type the wrong school DB. Oh yeah, it's important to. I'm not gonna remove this part from the video because it's important to see the mistakes. Remember that here when you are using Mongosh, you don't need to create a database, right? You don't need to create. With use, it will assume that it's right there, right? So when I type the command use schooldb with lowercase, it it switched to that one, and of course it's empty. There is no collection student because the real one is schooldb, but the D and the B with uppercase. So let's go to the right one. I was worried. So use schooldb with uppercase. So now we're in the right one. So if we type this command, it will show us all the documents here. Same problem is students. There you go. So once you type correctly the command, so you will get the 103 documents here. All right. So now let's see some operations that we can perform in our database. Same as SQL, you can filter, you can aggregate, you can make different things in order to get some meaningful information. So let's try to do that. So let's say that we want to filter the students based on the age. So in that case, there will be DB students with the S at the end, right? Let's use find. So I'm going to filter based on the age. age, and the condition, let's say that a student with an age greater than 21, something random. So this is the greater than. Here you can add multiple conditions and or different variables. That's possible. In the find command, you can add multiple conditions. There you go. So we close this one. We close this curly bracket and the parentheses. There you go. So it will show us the students with age greater than 21. So of course there are a lot of them. I can change maybe I'm gonna move the threshold, let's say, to 28. So we have fewer cases, right? We can even count them if you want to know how many. So it looks similar to when you're using pandas in Python, which you concatenate using dots. Same idea. There you go. So there are 15 students in my database with an age greater than 28. Right? Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. There you go. So here you have a table where you can see some of the common operations in SQL and the equivalent using MQL or MongoDB query language. So for example, the select, when you want to select everything, right, from a single table like users. So here DB users find, we did that, right, in our example, in our school DB database in the collection students. We can use the filters, and we use this one for the age. So where age greater than 25, we try with 21 and 28. So same idea here, right? With the greater than, there is a LT also, for different conditions. You can select specific fields, also using find. So here in this find, there is no, you see the curly brackets and they're empty because there is no condition. But then there are like, okay, the name, for example, I want to see this and I want to see the age. So it's going to return these two. We can do that in our example. Let me show it to you. Right here. Okay, so in this one, we're visualizing the age. We want to see only some specific fields. So let's, after the conditions, after the age, let me add which fields do we want to select. So let's say that we want to see name. So if we want to see name, we say name 1. We want to see also let's say the age. So we type 1. And we close the curly bracket. And now, please notice that we're dropping the major, right? It's only showing the first two, the name, the age, and by default is using the ID too. So we can drop that one too if we want. So explicitly in the command, here I can say, okay, you know what, with ID, tap a 0, so I don't want to see it. So now I just get the name and the age, right? So that's like the select. And we can see the student with the age. Okay, so in our homework, I will ask you several questions where you will need to group, where you will need to insert data and to compute some metrics. But now you get the idea on how this works. This can be integrated easily with Python too. which we will see in the next video. I'm going to stop this one for now with the basics, and I'll see you in our next video where I'm going to show you a bigger example and how to connect it with Python and create some like more interesting analysis.